The 2024-25 Premier League campaign is on the horizon. In preparation, we're previewing every single team and discussing how they'll shape up over the next campaign. We take a look at the transfer business conducted by the teams so far and offer suggestions of who else they should move for before the season gets started. Next up is Manchester City. In this video, we attempt to improve perfection by adding to this Man City side as they look to win a 5th consecutive Premier League title. This is our 2024-25 season preview for Manchester City. Alright, let's talk about Manchester City then. This feels like the easiest preview to do. We're going to start with last season where they won the Premier League once again. Do you think, considering they won the treble the year before, they fell slightly short of expectations last season?
I mean, wow, that is a statement and a half. Yeah, I guess so. Maybe not. They were very, very good, weren't they?
I think they'd have been disappointed to lose the FA Cup final, because that should have been a win against Manchester United, a team that they know they have the measure of on most occasions, but United were very good on the day and they did win that trophy fairly. But I think City will be... You're never going to be complaining about the fact you've won the Premier League.
That's the thing.
To go from a year where you won the Champions League and obviously the FA Cup as well, and then into this season where they only won the Premier League, it was slightly disappointing, but I don't think they'll care. It's
a luxury place to be when a disappointing season is only the Premier League title. You know, that is where Man City are right now. That's how good they are. The only one trophy is seen as a bit of an underperformance, which is absolutely crazy for a football team to be in that mindset. But that is how it is. That's how good they are. They've got the best team in the world, one of the best managers in the world. That's what we expect from them. So maybe only one trophy. I think they might be quite disappointed. I don't count the Club World Cup, load of rubbish.
Did they get the UEFA Super Cups? Well, they did get the UEFA Super Cups. So a couple in there, but I don't think they count towards it. I think that's a great treble, is it? The Club World Cup and the UEFA Super Cup. But yeah, obviously this season they'll be trying to pursue a 5th consecutive Premier League title, I believe.
Yes.
Because they've won 21, 22, 23 and 24. So a great run for Manchester City. And the question mark this season is not what City will do to keep that place. Obviously, there is a small question mark around that. The big question is, what can anyone do to close that gap? Now, Arsenal were only 2 points off last season, and they have been getting closer and closer every year, and they've improved massively this summer. Ricardo Calafiori is a really nice signing. I think it'll be really interesting to see whether that gap is closed. City, they haven't done a whole lot in the transfer market, and let's start by having a look at that. So outgoings, there's a couple here, nothing too important, though. Tommy Doyle has left for Wolves for £4 million. He was on loan there last season. That's not a huge loss.
No, not at all. I mean, bit of money, like they need money. But good for Doyle. Hope he does well at Wolves.
The same for Taylor Harwood-Bellis, who was out on loan last season. He's now joined Southampton permanently for £22.5 million. Yeah. Then £10 million, Sergio Gomez, the only real first teamer on this list, has joined Real Sociedad for £10 million, as I say. Liam Delap's gone to Ipswich Town for £18 million, but I believe City have a buyback clause on that, so they would be able to sign him back if he has an incredible season and Ipswich go down. And then Jan Couto going to Borussia Dortmund on loan with a £25 million obligation. He was on loan last season at Girona. He's now heading off to Dortmund. City have printed 50 million, 60 million there?
Yeah.
More than that. At least 78 million from players that aren't anywhere near the first team.
Yeah, exactly. It's just shortening the squad a bit while making profit. That's what any football team loves to do. To be in this position is great. Just get rid of some players that the majority of them weren't going to play this season. Good bit of money. Good window.
Eases any FFP concerns and sees them fly through nicely. Then on the incomings list, Savio joins from Troyes. So obviously he was on loan at Girona last season. He's coming in from another CFG club. We know the controversy around CFG and obviously the idea that you can have this multi-club ownership and just move players around like this. It becomes very business-like and not very authentically football. But Savio joins, and I think he's going to be a very, very good player. We saw last season at Girona, integral to their push towards the top of La Liga. They were so close to winning the title, and they obviously fell away in the last 10 matches. But they did get Champions League football. And I think Savio's going to come in and he's going to suit what City like. We saw last season the impact Doku had on that left-hand side, bringing in a winger who, compared to Grealish, brings a lot more excitement, a lot more pace at the end of games. It can be the difference maker. And I think Savio will be the same on the right-hand side in rotation with Bernardo Silva.
Yeah, exactly. We analyse this purely from a player point of view. He is a good player. I'll be intrigued to see how much he does play, how many minutes he gets this season. I'd expect to see a fair few, but I'm not expecting, every single game. We know Pep does like to rotate through those wingers a little bit. He's a decent player. He's another good option. City's quality on the wings now gets even better.
Yeah, and I don't think they ever replaced Mahrez, so this is their way of effectively doing that, and I think it's a very good pickup. So let's go over to the squad screen then, because what we like to do with these is pick out positions where these teams have issues and we really need to plug those gaps. I sat and looked at this City team for a few hours last night and just cried, because what an incredible team it is.
Yeah.
They have cover in every single position. Now, obviously there's a few question marks about players potentially leaving. I know Walker was linked with a move away. He has rejected Bayern. He will stay at Manchester City. Obviously at left back I put Cancelo in there because he is still part of the squad and he's not been sold yet. We do expect he'll leave before the end of the window though. I'd be very surprised if he tries to fight for his place at City. He just doesn't fit the squad anymore. And also with Kabore, Issa Kabore linked with a move away to Tottenham, so that could happen as well. We've got Bob, who's been linked with moves away. I don't really see that happening. De Bruyne has turned down Al Ittihad, and then Calvin Phillips as well has been linked with moves away, which would be a smart decision. But they're covered really nicely in every area. They've got Ederson, who could still leave.
Yes.
He's been strongly linked with a move away, but they've got Ortega and Scott Carson, so they've got more than enough cover there. Apparently their long-term replacement would be Mike Mainan for Ederson, which I think would be a really good signing. Whether they would pull that off this summer, or whether they would look to do that next summer and just play Ortega for a year, I think they'd be fine with just Ortega. He proved himself at the end of last season when Ederson picked up a few injuries that he can come in and do a really good job, so I think they're fine there. In defence, we know obviously in possession this will look like that 3-2-4-1 that is so typical City now. Obviously, we've got Walker at right back. That will likely be Akanji for those big games. I think that back four, Gvardiol, Diaz, Stones, Akanji will likely be how they line up, with Stones pushing into the pivot. Obviously, Ake can play that left back role. He can play that left centre half role. Akanji can play the inverted role, the pushing libero type role if Stones is out injured. Walker's comfortable at right back. Enrico Lewis, who we didn't see a whole lot of first team football for last season, but I think he'll come in and have a really good role. I saw a bit of him play against Chelsea last night. At the time of recording, that was last night, and he looked really, really solid. I think he's such a good technical player. And at the moment, obviously, the league's been dominated by these huge physical defenders. I mean, you look at that City back line, Akanji, Stones, Diaz, Gvardiol, they're all huge physical players. But Lewis is very small, but he does put him in a good fight, and he's a very technically good player, loves playing in small spaces. So, yeah, I think he's a really nice addition to what is a very good defence. In the pivot play, now this is a position I think they might need improvement.
Yeah.
Because they've got Rodri, and that is their starting player. He is, I think, the best player in the world right now. I don't think that's I think that's too outrageous to say. I think he'll probably win the Ballon d'Or this year, with Spain obviously winning the Euros, and or at least he should be. They might give it to like Lamine Yamal if they're feeling nuts. Phillips is an option, but I don't think he's very
good. I don't think so either.
He's never really settled into Man City. It's never really worked out. And I think a backup to Rodri, similar to how they brought in Rodri to be a backup to Fernandinho, and people went, well, why are they doing that? Because obviously that meant they had Rodri, who was doing nothing for about a year. Then Fernandinho left, and suddenly they had a world-class defensive midfielder. So
wow.
It felt like a free transfer. But yeah, so I think bringing someone there, and we're going to talk about options in a moment, would be smart. Then you've got those midfield options, the 2-8s. We expect De Bruyne and Foden will start those roles. De Bruyne's been moves away. As I said, he's rejected those. They've got Matthias Nunes, who played a little bit last season. I think he'll play even more this season. They've got Mateo Kovacic, who, again, played a little bit last season. Will probably get similar sort of minutes. They were linked with Lucas Paqueta. I only really saw that if De Bruyne moved.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, no, but I mean, it's really, really strong in these attacking areas to have.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. If City do lose the big players that you've talked about, you know, De Bruyne, Alvarez, you know, whoever, they've got the players in those play. Either they've got the places already, or they've got the players to come in and replace them. That, you know, it's a really nice balanced position that City are in, where, you know, if they did lose De Bruyne, Kovacic is there, and then they bring someone else in, and suddenly you don't feel the. I mean, I'm not saying obviously you would feel the loss. De Bruyne's a phenomenal player, but in terms of, you don't feel the positional loss, because you managed to recoup and replace very easily.
Yeah, and obviously with De Bruyne, because he's had a few injury concerns over the last few years, he's not been an integral part of the City squad. When he's come in, he's still played incredibily well. Yeah. And he's a fantastic footballer, I don't doubt that for a second. But he's not been too crucial in the last 2 seasons because he's just not been readily available. Phil Foden I want to talk about briefly. Do you think he can match his output from last season? Phenomenal campaign last year, put up his highest contributions in his career so far. Do you think he can match that this season, or was that a bit of an overperformance?
No, 100%. I mean, I don't really. It's a bit of a weird. I find Foden a bit of a strange player because you never really hear people talking about how he is one of the best players in the world. For me, he is up there. He is one of the best players in the world right now. But you feel like he's never in that conversation. People never mention his name. I think he's phenomenal. He looked brilliant for England. Well, when he was played in the right position, he looked brilliant for England. At the Euros. He had a phenomenal season last season. I'm expecting him to build on that. He is a brilliant footballer, and I hope for his sake again he can deliver and some incredible numbers over the next campaign.
Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to see. I don't think he'll match his tally from last season because he dipped up to really high numbers, but I think he'll have another strong campaign.
Yeah.
I think he's an incredible footballer. And yeah, I think City are going to have another really strong season with Foden in there. Right wing, they've now got that nice rotation of Bernardo Silva and Savio. Bernardo Silva's still willing to move away, but unless Barcelona pull up another £60 million, which they might, because they have just done that for haven't they? Don't know where they found that money. Left that one on the sofa. But yeah, that's going to be... I think Silva will likely stay now and may move for free next summer. I think, is it contract next summer? Maybe slightly longer than that. But next summer, I think, will be when Silva goes. So that gives Savio a year to sort of bed in and then look to be that starting option. On the left-hand side, bit more conversation here because they've got Grealish, and I think there's a debate about what happens with him. They've got Doku, who was incredible last season. They've got Oscar Bob. Let's start with Grealish. And where does his future lie? Because he was out for a lot of last season. Does he come back in and start for City? Has he got to fight for his place? And the bigger question is he still good enough for City? Is he on that level?
It's a really good question, obviously, for Grealish. It was a tough season last season. He then missed out on the Euros. I'm going to be intrigued to see what happens here because Doku was so good last season. For me, he has to start. He's your starter. And then suddenly you've got Jack Grealish playing, rotation minutes, squad minutes. And then you question his quality as well. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm looking... I'm looking forward, but I'm going to keep an eye on how well he comes back into. We know he's a good player, but... I think Doku's better than him at the moment, and that is a concern for Grealish. That is a big concern.
Yeah. I think that heightens with the fact that you've got a big decision with Oscar Bob now, because there you will be well aware of what happened with Palmer last summer. Yeah. And I think Bob will be looking for a move away now.
He wants to stay and fight for his minutes, which is an interesting decision from him, because you look at the success Cole Palmer's had. We're looking at this here. Bob's third in line on that left wing. I mean,
the question mark, is he?
Well, maybe.
Does he think he can get ahead of Grealish in that pecking order? And then the big question for Grealish is, why is he sticking around?
Yeah.
Because if he's third choice there, then Jack Grealish is a third choice player.
He's not, exactly.
It feels outrageous. So I think there will be enough minutes to go around anyway. But that does open up a big question mark over the tangibility of those playing. Up front then, let's move on. Haaland and Alvarez. Now, Haaland's not going anywhere. We know that. He's going to score loads of goals this season. And annoy everyone. Julian Alvarez, though, is a big question mark. There is interest coming in from Atletico Madrid, have been strongly pushing for them for ages. Then PSG came in with a bigger bid, apparently. But Alvarez hasn't made any decisions yet because he's waiting until after the Olympics. And now Arsenal are apparently interested, which would make a lot of sense because obviously he fits that system perfectly. He plays it. But yeah, so a lot of competition for his signature. How big a lot is it for City?
It would be really tough because, I mean, Atletico Madrid, I don't think that will happen, to be honest, with the other two names in there. PSG, they need a striker. That is paramount. They've lost Kylian Mbappe, they need to replace him. Arsenal, Julian Alvarez would be the player that would take that Arsenal side very close to this City side. That would bridge the gap even further. That would be a huge deal for Alvarez. I think it would be on, wouldn't it? I mean, he would, if he knows how good Arsenal are. He knows he could be make up that 2-point difference and win Arsenal the league. For City, it's a big problem, but it's a hard one to manage because you can't bench Erling Haaland. But also, you need a backup striker that can come in and play to the ability of the team. And that is Julian Alvarez. But that is also very hard to come by. Yeah. But to please Alvarez, you have to bench Haaland. But you can't rotate. I mean, obviously, when Haaland's got injured, Alvarez's play has been phenomenal. And we have seen Alvarez play deeper, haven't we?
I was going to say, Alvarez has played when De Bruyne's been out. He could play in that right 8 spot, and Foden could play.
But if he's not happy,
out on the right wing, there's options there.
It's a scenario that I think is going to kind of go on all summer. It might be a situation that nothing happens in. I could definitely see that happening. It depends how, is Alvarez happy, playing as he is, or what do, because for Arsenal, he'd play every single game. He'd start up front for most games.
There was a rumour, I don't know how true this was, but I have seen something that there was a row between him and Pep Guardiola, which is an interesting one. Now, I know obviously players and managers are going to argue occasionally, but that would be pointing towards him leaving. I know Chelsea have been linked as well, with obviously the Maresca links there, and that could be something that they look to explore, because Chelsea need to add a ninth striker. Because all their current options aren't enough. But yeah, for Alvarez, it's a weird one, because I generally think he's one of the best strikers in the league. Yeah. If it wasn't for the fact that he played for Man City,
he would start in. I don't
think there's another team he doesn't start for.
I think in all 19 teams.
I think you can make a genuine argument he's the second best striker in the league, and he plays.
Yeah, I think
he plays for Man City.
He starts for Arsenal. Højlund might give him a run for his money. He starts every week for Chelsea.
But I think a more interesting debate would be Aston Villa. Does he start over Watkins?
Oh,
I think that's really tight. And Newcastle, does he start over Isak?
Yeah.
I think those two would arguably be tighter than Tottenham and Arsenal and Chelsea and Liverpool.
Julian Alvarez is one of the best strikers in the league, and he's on the bench, or he's either not playing up front or he's on the bench, and that's his problem. Is that he knows that he could walk into any side in the league, and that's what his frustration
is. Or Europe, for that fact.
Yeah.
It's a weird one for me that Barcelona aren't looking at him, because if they can just provide £60 million magically. I thought Alvarez would be a much smarter signing than Olmo, considering that for me is where they need to improve. The issues at the moment, a lot of clubs want to bid around 40-50 million. City have been asking for closer to 70 million, which I still think will be a little undervalued. But for City, I think 70 million.
What's the value?
I was going to say it's nothing. It's just, oh God, we lost a player. But yeah, we're going to talk then how they might replace Julian Alvarez and how they might replace Calvin Phillips. So let's start in defence midfield, because I think a perfect backup to Rodri is his compatriot, Martin Zubimendi. He's been earning a lot of plaudits for what he's done at Real Sociedad this season in an Imanol Alguacil system that is very possession heavy, so he will suit what City are wanting to do. I think what really impressed me about Zubimendi is that he's not the tallest player, yet his aerials one are in the 81st percentile, which is very strong. That's what you need in the Premier League. If you're going to play defensive midfield, if you're going to play that Rodri role, you've got to be a big presence, even if he's not. I don't think he's quite as tall as Rodri, so he does have that slight disadvantage. His pass completed up in the 64th percentile, and now I wanted to caveat the passes completed and the progressive passes stats, because 64th and 62nd don't look the most incredible, but in a City system that's only going to be heightened. I think the more interesting is those progressive carries, which may point out why he's not the greatest fit, because one of Rodri's greatest strengths is carrying that ball forwards for City and bringing players in, bringing that ball forwards and creating attacking chances, but that's something, again, that can be improved. And we've seen him do it before, just not so much last season. So I think there's a lot of real positives with Zubimendi. I think he's really good in possession. I think he's solid out of possession. I think it provides a really perfect screen to that back, to that attack. They'd be able to play, and then you've got Zubimendi, you can keep funneling that ball back into play. So I think it'd be a really nice fit, and I think his numbers, or at least his profile, looks very similar to Rodri when he was at Atletico Madrid. Then he comes to City, and that's when Pep turns him into a beast. Yeah. So I really like Zubimendi, and I think he'd be perfect for what Pep would want to mould into Rodri.
This feels like a carbon copy, really. It's a perfect signing. He is Rodri. He is just another version of Rodri.
Martin Zubimendi. Not
Rodri. Good. Yeah. He's a very, very good player. He does everything you want that Rodri does. He's already his backup for the national side at Spain. It just feels right that he would come in and play for City and then replace Rodri when he's gone. He'll do the same for Spain in the national side. It makes complete sense. He's a very good player, and he ticks all the boxes that they need to tick.
Yeah, very true. Then let's get on over to striker. Now, I've gone rogue with this one. I'll obviously, if City were to lose Alvarez, I think that'd be they don't necessarily have to replace him, because obviously they've got Haaland. I think Foden could play through the middle if it came to it. He's done that before as that sort of false nine role. And I think the signing City would make isn't to go and sign some sort of world-class superstar. Nah. The problem is it's very difficult to sign someone who is going to be able to play attacking midfield, so they actually get some minutes, who is happy to play rotation, but is still good enough to play for Manchester City. So I've gone for someone I think could be good enough, and actually I think Pep really likes a tactical fit, is Omar Marmoush. He's 25 years old, plays for Eintracht Frankfurt. He's an Egyptian international. He plays as sort of a false nine type role. And what I really like about him is that he's not a out and out goal scorer, and that's why I think he'd be really suited to Pep, because you'd have Haaland as your out and out goal scoring option, and then Marmoush, who could comfortably play attacking midfield, who could comfortably play as a false nine type player. I And I think it'll be a really interesting tactical fit. His progressive carries in the 93rd percentile, so he is really good at picking that ball up and driving it forwards, which does show he does make runs into deep and pick the ball up and then try and go forwards, which isn't necessarily what City do tactically, and I think that would be eradicated from his game unless they look to do what they did in before Haaland, when they had De Bruyne up front at times, when Foden played up front at times, when it was Gabriel Jesus, when it was more of a false nine role. So I think it'll give Pep a nice, interesting tactical option there. His assists and expected assists in the 81st and 78th percentile, averaging about 0.2 there per 90, 0.23 assists and 0.17 expected assists. So he's very good at creating opportunities for others, and when you've got players like De Bruyne and Foden and Silva and Savio and Bob and Doku and Grealish, why not create opportunities for others? And obviously if Haaland is playing up front and he's playing attacking midfield, he's creating opportunities for Erling Haaland. So I think he's a really good tactical fit. He's someone who a lot of people will probably go, he plays for Eintracht Frankfurt, he's 25, he doesn't have that flashy superstar name, but I don't know. I think it'd be a really nice signing if they were to lose Julian Alvarez.
Yeah, I think he'd do a job, and that's what City would need him to do. You know, they don't need him to slap 30 goals in every season because Haaland can do that. He needs to come in and score 5 to 10 goals when Haaland has a knock, or he needs a rest, and that's what he can do. He's got the quality. He's exactly what you said they need. He's got the quality to perform in this team, but he's not gonna. He'll be well chuffed to play attack midfield for the best team in the world and just rotate with Haaland every now and again. He don't got that. That'll please him properly. I think he's a good player. He could put his numbers with obviously he'd be accelerated in a higher quality side than Frankfurt. It makes sense for the lad.
Yeah, so I think it'd be a really nice signing. Other than that, I think they would probably look at Argentina and scout someone that no one's ever heard of before, and then suddenly he's incredible. Wow! So that's probably what they're going to try and do. But yeah, I was thinking, they've missed out on Endrick or someone like that, or Vitor Roque, so they're out the window. They've missed out on Esteval. They're signing Claudio Echeverri, which I think we've not spoken about him because I don't think he'll be in the first team this season. He might get a few minutes towards the end of the campaign if they're comfortable in the league, which I don't think they will be, but I think he might get a few minutes. So yeah, I think City have missed out on a lot of those wonder kids, which is where they'd want to be, adding quality. I think, especially considering we expect this will be Pep Guardiola's last season, and I think in that regard, future planning has got to start to come into effect for Shiki Bagheera-Stein, the technical director, the director of football. I can't remember what his official title is. He's a director
or something.
He does. He runs the club basically for Pep. Gets all the players in the door, and then Pep makes them do cool things. So yeah, they've got to start future planning because not many managers want 5 centre halves and no fullbacks. So they've got to start thinking of stuff like that, and it's really interesting to see who they replace him with if he does indeed leave. There are rumours he may be considering staying on at Man City, which is boring, but if he does move on, I'd be very interested to see who they get. I wouldn't be surprised if De Zerbi's name is back in the ring, because I think he is going to cook at Marseille this season. But I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think Malmö should be a really nice fit. I think they, and Mendy, fantastic signing. If they can pull that off for £50 million, I think Mendy would be a really nice backup to Rodri. So yeah, City are probably going to win the league again because they're really good. Our predictions will be out next week where we will decide whether it'll be City, Arsenal, or a complete random team winning the Premier League. But I think we'll have another good title race. I still think City are my favourites though to win the title.
Probably, If anything, it might be more difficult because we might see more than 2 sides in the title race. But again, I don't know. I'm being hopeful. It's one of those things. City, they're bloody good, and you have to give them credit for that. They are brilliant. Whatever happens off the pitch, on the pitch, Man City are a very, very good football team, and they look destined for another league title. Yeah.
Very true. It's going to be very interesting to see. So, yeah, I'm sure you guys have a lot of thoughts on what we've said in this video. So do get involved in the comments down below. Keep it constructive if you can, rather than just you're terrible, lol. But do get involved in the comments below. That's everything from us today. If you've enjoyed this preview, you might enjoy the other previews, so go check that out on screen now. It will be linked with Liverpool. So if you want to see us preview Liverpool's season under new manager Arne Slot, that will be on screen now. But that's everything from us today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.